lawyer in Kuwait courts and a member of the IB committee. We'd like to welcome you all to the 5th episode of the Investment and Business Committee Bilingual Flashes. Basically, it's a platform explaining and discussing legal knowledge. This committee is led and managed by lawyer Lina Adluni. And today, Mr. Hamud Khreibط will be joining us. Hello, Mr. Hamud.
Hello, Ustad Almas. Hello, everyone. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Hamud Khreibط. I'm an attorney and a member of the Lawyer Association in Kuwait, and I'm happy to be here with you, Ustad Almas.
We're happy too. So, Ustad Hamud, today our topic is about the consumer protection law and knowing your basic rights as a consumer. So tell me, how was the consumer protection law established?
So, Ustad Almas, today's topic is really interesting and for multiple reasons. And the first reason I might say it because is that we do live in a modern age, and consumers are everywhere. The methods of buying things keep on developing, and in return, you need legislation that develops as well. So the Consumer Act number 39 of 2014, just like how it develops, ways of fraud and manipulation develops as well, unfortunately. You do need consumers to be aware of their rights, and you do need obligations for the sellers in return. So the consumer rights protection does have 37 articles that aims at safeguarding and consumer rights and creating an instrument of control to ensure these rights are very well protected. But before we talk about dig any deeper, Ustad Almas, I do think that we need to know, and the viewers would like to know, who enforces this Consumer Act of 2014? Who's responsible for it? So what do you think?
So basically, the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Commerce and Industry has a pretty big role in the Consumer Protection Act. It's responsible for its execution and the supervision of this law. So it handles the complaints concerning consumer-related disputes. It also regulates the prices in the market, and it has organized branches that deal directly with consumers, like the hotline number 135. Consumers are able to complain through it at any time of day and take their first step in filing a lawsuit through the ministry.
Okay, so that's pretty good. That's pretty good piece of information, because what consumers might not know is that when they walk into a normal shop and they see, that small sign that says, "Hey, call 135," and you can report a violation that you might have felt, or if you just want to make sure that you can call this number. But is there like a certain committee mentioned in the 2014 Act? Could you tell us a little bit more of that?
Yes, there's the National Committee. It's under Article 2 in that Act, 39 2014. That time it established an independent national committee for consumer protection. It is basically composed of 12 representatives of governmental entities, and they're chaired by the Minister of Commerce and Industry. And this committee is also responsible for implementing the law. So basically, they are, in terms of achieving, this committee's tasks are, they create general policy for consumer protection, they develop the plans and programs for protection of consumer rights, they investigate the complaints received from consumers or Consumer Protection Society, and the reporting of violation because it's their concern. And they verify also that the goods and services meets the specification of quality standards, and with the cooperation of the consumer protection bodies, basically, they all come to a conclusion where they want to give the consumer his full rights without any concern.
So this national committee does have a lot of weight on its shoulders because it lays down policies that, you know, in the future that can affect the consumer and can affect the obligation of the seller. But what happens in a case of a violation of Article 2 exactly? Can you tell us?
Yes. So if any violation occurs, there is a law that says an imprisonment for a period of no less than 3 months and no more than 3 years, and a fine no less than 2,000 dinars and no more than 10,000 dinars, or one of those two penalties.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yes. But here I gave you a preview on the national committee and the MOKI. Hamoud, me and you both know what a consumer is, and the Act listed down the definitions. So would you please explain it to the audience? What is a consumer?
So, okay. So if we go back to the article number 39 of 2014, the Consumer Protection Act. So if we come to define what is a consumer, consumer could be you, could be me. So if I go into a certain store, let's say store A, and I buy a certain product, in exchange, of course, I paid for this product, I instantly become a consumer. So by legal definition, it is every natural or legal person who buys a commodity or a service for a fee or benefits from either one of them for the purpose of consumption.
You mentioned commodity. What are the commodities? What is a commodity?
So everything that you can drink, such as sugar or coffee, every industrial, agricultural, animal, transformational, or semi-factory product, as well as used goods that are contracted through a supplier.
Yeah, and that supplier is?
Okay, so if we're going to talk about suppliers, there are every natural or legal persons who practice in their name for the account of others commercial or industrial activity related to the distribution, like lease, import, distribution, manufacture, or even sale.
Very nice. Yeah. And would you please give us a brief about a defect? What is a defect?
All right, so let's say that I went to store A and I did buy a couple of headphones. And these headphones, you know, written on the description box that they're amazing, they're instantly, they can connect via Bluetooth or whatsoever. And once I take this product back home, it does not do what it says. It has a lot of mistakes in it. So this is a defect, Almaz, a lack of quality, quantity, or efficiency. It is the opposite of what it is of the expected results, basically. But definitions on the side, Almaz. The Consumer Protection Act does give rights to the consumers. Can you tell us, and the viewers, of course, a little bit more information of that? What are the consumer rights?
Sure. So this law gives the consumer protection against unfair selling practices. Ustad Hamoud, you need to understand how fair trading regulations protect consumers. The consumer has a basic legal right if the product is not safe, and if the product is given a misleading description of it, and its unsatisfactory quality. It wasn't expected to the consumer, and it doesn't fit for its intended purposes. So basically, all products and services must be satisfactory quality. And the consumer also has the right to complain and file a legal case against the supplier. There are articles that are stated. There is Article 9 and 10. They list, those article lists the rights of the consumer.
Yeah.
In Article 9, there are four rights: the right to safety, the right to quality, and the right to be informed, and the right to redress. So these rights in Article 9 of the Consumer Protection Law are based on the rights granted by the United Nations Guidelines for Consumer Protection.
Okay. So you did mention the right to be informed. What does that mean exactly?
Well, basically, the right to be informed is that the customer or the consumer should be provided with sufficient information to make an informed choice, and to be protected against false and misleading advertisement.
Okay, so basically, yeah, go ahead, Salamas.
And as I mentioned, there's Article 9 and 10. Article 10 allows a consumer to replace or return a defective product within 14 days of purchase. So as you said and mentioned before about the headphones, if I go in the shop and I get a specification paper from this headphones company that states that the headphone works well, the headphone is wireless, it has a lot of
basically if it does something,
and I go back home and I try on the headphones, and the headphones does not even give me what I was expecting. So here I have, within the 14 days I can refund the what I purchased, and it applies only in instances where consumer receives a defective or incomplete service in accordance with the nature of the service. So unless it is infecting the nature of the service, I can return it and I can refund it. Or if it's defecting the nature of the contract conditions, I can return it. And in this case, the service provider, Ustad Hamud, shall refund the value of the service or the value of the product, or reprovide the service to the consumer.
I want to go back a little bit again to Article number 9, the right to be informed, because I really like that provision, to be exact, because a lot of people go to co-ops or they go to shops and they buy a certain product and they don't read probably the ingredients, or the ingredients written on the product, it's totally different of what actually has inside or what it does. So the consumer might feel a little bit of embarrassed, they don't want to return this, they don't know if they can. So it's really important to know that the consumer has a right to be informed. That is correct.
Yes, very, very true. Like, the consumer has the right to refund anything that is defected within those days. Like, you have 14 days, so you would probably know if your product is defected within those days. So here are the points of the consumer rights. As for you now, you should tell me the obligations of the supplier.
All right, so Salamas, the obligations of a supplier, I'm going to talk about 3 articles to be exact, 13, 14, and 16. So Article 13 states that displaying the supplier does have an obligation to place a price on each product, and it has to be very clear and direct. And the service provider is to indicate the value of the service with full honesty. And they cannot offer any kind of discounts or sale without a pre-authorization from the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So, Salamas, when we go to a famous shopping mall here in Kuwait and we see these loads of shops, they all have shopping discounts. That means that they did get an authorization from the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. And I do think that the consumer should have a right to know when these offers are coming down, because they do get an authorization from the ministry itself. So they should view this information as a sign of transparency as well. Article 14 talks about the supplier's obligation to replace a defective product within an agreed. I think there's an echo, Salamas. Yeah. Okay. So as I was saying, that the supplier does have an obligation to replace a certain product if it has a defect in it, and it could be an agreed time frame, or the usual time frame which you mentioned earlier, the 14 days. But however, this does not apply on perishable goods. So it does not apply on magazines, does not apply on books, it does not apply on newspapers, and etc. the last article that I do want to mention about the supplier obligation is to provide a consumer with an invoice written in Arabic. You know, a lot of people find this weird to be written, but it is mentioned in our constitution in Kuwait that the official language in Kuwait is Arabic. So everything you see has to be provided in two languages. If they're going to go with English, the other one has to be Arabic. And it's considered to be an obligation. Okay, so what happens if these suppliers don't apply the previous articles that I did mention? So there's a fine that does not exceed 25,000 dinars, an imprisonment period of not exceeding 2 years, or either by these two penalties. And in event of repetition, the penalty doubles by itself, which is the case. The accused is also considered a returnee if he commits a similar crime during a period of 5 years.
Very interesting, Mr. Hamud. So basically, every consumer has the right to report a supplier if they're supplying. Otherwise, the consumers are protected under this act. But tell me, Mr. Hamud, the COVID-19 had an implementation of the Consumer Act. What are the implementations that occurred during this
pandemic? Yeah. So I think me and you both noticed that, Almas, is that this Consumer Protection Act was being tested on if it was practical or it's not practical. The situation that happened in Kuwait, it's important to realize that this didn't happen only in Kuwait, it happened for the entire world. As much as the Ministry of Industry and Commerce was trying to adapt, it did face multiple difficult situations. For example, the spike of prices in surgical masks. So we did notice that there was a video that went on viral for the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, and he went down to one of the pharmacies himself during inspection. The online system that was implemented and the unstable prices and availability of different food items that were supposed to be on the shelves in co-ops. What do you think happened? How well the Ministry of Industry and Commerce responded during this pandemic, Almas? Do you think?
Well, I think, Ustad Hamud, that during this pandemic, in the first phase, people did not know how long we're gonna stay locked down, or how long we're gonna have the online booking system, the grocery store, and bought whatever they can and as much as they can just to keep them and their kids safe.
Yeah, I do.
So basically, good Kuwait is on the right track. They started acting as per normal people do. You know what I mean? So I think the implementation of the out in Corona, it's made us, in this pandemic, it's made us realize how consumers may react in different situations. But here, it's all. Hamud, did you know that the Ministry of Commerce and Industry does awareness and publishes it online on their website?
See, I didn't know that until recently, and I think that's a pretty good step, because like you mentioned earlier, how important it is to have this kind of awareness between consumers and consumer has to know and have the knowledge of, I don't need to overbuy. I don't need 6 packs of water. I just need 1. I don't need 6 bottles of sanitizers. I just need 3. So consumers do need to be more aware, and I think the Ministry of Commerce and Industry need to communicate more with the consumer so they can know their rights.
Yeah, true. But they also done different kinds of awareness. Like, let's say the headphone, the one I bought, has potential of overheating the battery and maybe flammable. But they do. They publish the date of the banning of products and the numbers and email of the shop which provided and sold that product, and gave the consumer the right to fund it with just because it's published in their websites, in the ministry.
So, Ustad Almas, I think if we're gonna dig more deeper into this and talk about the powers given to the Ministry of Industry and Commerce of what they can do, needs another brilliant talk, and we could do this for a next talk. What do you think, Ustad Almas?
Yes, it does. It needs like a really good talk, and it's very about what they can ask for, what they can complain about, what they can get. This law has set the time for return of items. It ensured that you get good quality product to submit your complaints, like what we said, and educate consumers to provide quality standards in consumers. So what do you think about?
You are a little bit cutting off, Ustad Almas. I have to be honest with you here. I don't know if the connection is bad from my side or yours, but I did hear a little bit, and I do agree. The current Consumer Protection Act does make sure that these rights are protected, but it needs to be developed, and it needs to be developed rapidly and very fast, because we do have consumers purchasing things online. We do have the methods changing very quickly. So, and in terms of all that, we do need to keep them more aware as much as we can.
Yes, very true. It was a great talk about the legal definitions.
Yeah. I do have you on freeze, Ustad Almas. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, I think we lost Ustad Almas, but I would like to thank everyone who joined us. I hope everyone enjoyed this talk. Inshallah, in the next episodes, we will be talking deeper about the legislative side and different kinds of laws we have here in Kuwait. So thank you everyone for joining. Please have a good night.